Chronometry calibrated. The gateway will open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Analyzing data. Likelihood of parallel universes now at 40%. Continuing analysis of the many worlds hypothesis.
Hello, my name is Gay Fesh. I'm a podcaster. I make a lot of podcasts. That one about TNG that ended on the Best of Both Worlds Part 1, that was mine. Early this year, we went down a path of watching the filmography of a director. I remember being knocked out by his humor, his eye for actors, and his script choices. That director was the 80s and 90s legend Rob Reiner. So when I saw that Spinal Tap II was his last film, even if he didn't plan it that way, well, needless to say, I jumped at the chance to make the podcast that you're about to listen to. But hey, enough of my yakking. What do you say? Let's boogie. On lead guitar, we've got DemonMama. Hey! And on keyboard, we've got Moss.
I can't approximate keyboard sounds, but I'm also here.
All right. This is it. This is Rob Reiner's last film. I have really enjoyed doing this season, really enjoyed watching his movies. And I was worried going into this one because, you know, it's a legacy sequel. It's 40 years after the last one came out, and who knows how good it was going to be. But the key is that they got everyone who it was involved in the first one writing this one, and it was magic. Those people are just magic. They just fucking know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it is cool. I really like the fact that it reinforces its own message by what's the word I'm looking for? It presents its own message and proves its point. It's just like, you know, things can get better with age. It's not all like downhill. It's not all has-beens. You can actually ripen and kind of cast off some of your worst traits and become something better and amazing. You know what I mean? Like, as you age. I think that's cool. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it basically like is the perfect follow-up to the first movie. Like, it is incredible given that it spans decades. Like, so much time has passed, and I like that it is basically these guys just as old geezers, right? Like, there's these moments that just feel so authentic to who they would have become. Even like the director guy, you know, he's like interviewing Derek in the glue store, and he gets the thing stuck to his nose, and he's like, can we keep talking for a second here? And it just was like, that's like such an old man moment, and I loved it. It was actually really good.
I'm like struggling to even think, because like I was just kind of blown away by how good this movie was.
Yeah, me too.
In a lesser director's hands, if Rob Reiner hadn't made this, but the other guys did with somebody else, like I feel like a lesser director would have forced in a joke about them getting new amps that go to 12. And like they still did a callback to the Stonehenge bit, but I thought that it worked really well, especially how it tied in with the subversion of the drummer curse.
Yeah.
Yes.
That worked great. I think that my only major issue with the movie, and honestly it's probably more of a minor issue, is at some point the parade of celebrity musicians showing up in the movie, I think they could have cut Paul McCartney. When he showed up, that felt to me like when The Simpsons was just introducing celebrities voicing themselves as like, hey, Lisa Simpson, meet my personal best friend, Paul McCartney. I'm literally thinking of that episode of The Simpsons where he did that, where he was just friends with the Pooh. And Elton John is a much funnier character, so I feel like all of the ego stuff that David had with Paul McCartney, he could have just done with Elton John anyway. I do get that there is like a level of Paul McCartney is a Beatle, and here he is jamming with Beatle, and he can't get over himself. So there is that level to it that I don't think Elton John would have sold quite as well. I just think there were too many celebrities.
Yeah, I would put it the opposite way. I would say Paul McCartney made sense and Elton John didn't make sense.
I was thinking about that too. One thing I liked about the celebrity cameos in this movie was that they all made sense. They were all like, okay, these are music guys, and we're trying to sell them as a real band that is interacting with real other legends. And some of whom, you know, they just kind of like, you know, you get Elton John like, oh, you know, you're on the road, you just pass by each other all the time. Like, I enjoyed that aspect. I do think some of it may be overstayed. I think I I agree. Maybe the Paul McCartney stuff was a little heavy. There was a lot of Paul McCartney, including at the end. They had a whole nother section with Paul McCartney. Who am I to be, I guess, saying like, you put too much of one of the most famous musicians of all time in your movie? But like, you know, I don't know. I overall, I thought the celebrity cameos were good. You know, you got the Questlove, you know, you got the Elton John. I really did like the Elton John inclusion. But something that I really liked about this movie was all of the callbacks. It's just to speak to something you said about like callback jokes and things like that, which there were a lot of callback jokes in this movie, but it felt like there was a decision to basically be like, none of these can be like a reference for reference's sake. None of them can be just a rehash. They all have to be a ripening of the original thing. All the way down to the like, now you get to see the vision of what the Stonehenge performance was actually, what they were able to realize the vision and what it was. And it's like a genuinely awesome moment.
They still brought out dwarfs.
Yeah, they sure did.
But I mean, but in this case, they're not so much bigger than the Stonehenge.
Right, like, but the whole reason they had dwarfs in the first place was because the Stonehenge was so small. They're like, well, we can't have full-size people dancing around.
Which but even that, it's just like, it makes it seem even bigger and even more astounding. I love that in this movie, so many of the characters' like horrible traits have kind of fallen by the wayside as they've been humbled through life, as they've like grown and found other things, and some of them still remain. Their most like deepest flaws are still there. Like, for example, you know, you have David being like, I'm quite proud of those.
That was my favorite line. I relate to David on such a deep level. He's a man who cannot get out of the way of his own ego and anxiety. Like, I literally wrote down, it's only due to the flaws in my character, which I'm rather proud of. That should be a fucking t-shirt. And then when he's fighting with Nigel during a tech rehearsal, and Nigel says, "You are on edge," and he goes, "Why are you not?" I feel that in my soul.
Truly.
I love that scene. And it's just like, Nigel has grown in his own way too. Like the fact that he's just kind of like hits that obnoxious noise and he does the little Nessendorma, like that was so good. I also really like that this movie, like in this film, the vast majority of the like hilarious bungles have nothing to do with their decisions. Like they have all settled into just a love of music. And I think like there's a scene with David early on that I really liked, that I think kind of sets the tone for what they were going for with this character, which is David in his overcrowded little studio where he's like the vestigial equipment, and he's just like, it's all in the MacBook now. And then you see him like he knows how to use the MacBook. They didn't do like the low-hanging fruit of him like, oh, actually, how's this dang machine work or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
He's fully adapted.
Yeah, he's super proud of his, what's it called? The Holdie. He won a Holdie for hold music.
It's like,
he's like super
my
proud
favorite
of it.
scene in the movie.
And he's doing intro music for podcasts. And
He does the whole score for it. I'm like, that's really cool. Yeah, he's like the only guy who still does music in a real like active, successful sense. Like it reminds me of Juno and like the dad in Juno, not the dad, the guy who was going to adopt the baby in Juno, and how he's like, yeah, I just make little like commercials or whatever. Like that is the modern day, like how to be successful as a musician who's not like billable. You know, the music industry is like no longer able to wring any value out of you from a marketability standpoint. So what do? You make old music. And it's like it's so pure and so good.
Yeah.
He's proud of what he's making, and all of them in their own way have this, you know, connection to music that like persists. Like obviously the cheese shop thing is like, it's silly, but it works. He trades cheese for guitars and guitars for cheese, and it's like, oh, he's in his passion. Yeah, by weight. He's in his passion.
A guitar has to be worth more per pound than cheese.
Some cheeses are hella expensive, especially if you're buying half a wheel of cheese. Like
guitars are not heavy. Guitars are
pound for
specifically
pound,
not supposed to be heavy. You need to be able to carry them on stage.
That's true. And that he inexplicably ends up with like a hot woman who it's like what is that from like that old Victorian thing. You can vex a woman with a piece of cheese. Like,
Yes.
that's how you got there.
That's how he got her.
Oh God, I love their relationship where it's just like it's so like supportive and genuine, and like they both have a almost like foolish quirkiness to them. Like the part where they're singing, where she's like, "Oh yeah," and then the next, maybe, and then you could harmonize. Like, I'm
Just sing it
okay,
out.
nothing's up. Like, yeah, she's just like not able to say. It was so good. But yeah, the movie is like this. In the first movie, it is just a constant parade of them tripping over each other and like on their own egos and their own incompetence and stupidity. And while they're kind of still dum-dums in a lot of ways, they've settled into this passion where it's like the hijinks that happen in the movie are other people's, younger people's faults. You know what I mean? Like predominantly their manager. God, he sucks so much, and they did such a good job making him like the biggest shithead in the world. You have like the really well-meaning Hope Faith, yeah, which is like very funny. Oh my God. Speaking of hope and faith, I loved the cameo of like Juliana Immaculata, like, or whatever her name was, Jules Immaculata, the like nun.
Oh yeah. Janine
Immaculata, Sister Janine Immaculata. That's so.
I got a lot of cameos from like characters that were in the first one, but they're like, well, we don't really have a thing for them. We'll just film like one scene with them. Like literally, it was just one shot with Fran Drescher. That was it. I wonder how much they had actually filmed.
Because there wasn't any in the credits either of her. So she's got her saying one sentence, like, I have PTSD from this. Like, okay, cool.
I became a Buddhist. And then there's like the monk sitting, her assistant. It's so funny. I love the composition of that scene, because she's in a freaking Buddhist themed corporate office and she has a monk at the assistant's desk behind her.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just so funny. I think you might have taken the wrong lessons away from Buddhism.
Well, I mean, that tracks for an executive and working in like the entertainment industry.
Speaking of person working in the music industry, what was his name? The guy with the really deep open shirt who doesn't like music. Like, I don't remember what his name was, but he was like in charge of their PR.
The manager.
He's like,
the manager.
Is he I guess like Hope. I thought of Hope as the manager.
He's their rep. He's their rep.
Their rep.
Or
Okay.
agent,
Yeah.
He was their publicist, I think.
Regardless.
Oh, publicist, yeah.
He was delightful.
Yeah.
And he was not wrong about everything. Like, he's like correct that these old men need to exercise, get a jazzercise moment in here. But just like, he was just so quintessential, like distilling the music industry down into one singular human being. Perfect.
As an executive who has absolutely no ear for music and doesn't even like it.
Yeah.
Also, I love the joke about the Nicaraguan K-pop band.
Yeah. They identify as Korean.
I was just like, oh man, I had an internet PTSD flashback during that scene of other infamous people who identified as Korean.
Oh, God.
Oh.
I completely forgot.
No, I know exactly who you're talking about.
It's Ollie London for the listeners, by the way.
What's he up to these days? Is he still on that grift, or did he disappear finally?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think I did see him talking about like detransition or something, but it could have been a while ago.
Talk about washouts.
But you can do those kind of jokes. Like he managed to do like an identify as joke, and it was like the worst person in the movie making the joke, and also it was still funny. So
yeah, it was funny, and like this movie, it avoided very gracefully so many tropes that it could have leaned into, so many hack tropes that it could have leaned into, and instead just went for just amazing moments, like the little like singing the cups and cakes, like that was so cute.
That was a very good choice with McCartney to do that song in particular.
Exactly. It was just like, oh man, look at these fucking has-beens. And then it's not. It's just so heartfelt and they're all feeling it. Also the one where they like immediately step into the studio and they're testing the acoustics and they're all like singing that folk song or whatever together. And it's just like, oh God, there's so many genuinely beautiful musical moments. It makes you go like, these reprobates, like they've become better people in their own ways. And in some ways they've become worse, but in most of the ways they've become better. The scene where they introduce the drummer is just, it's so, I was like, yeah, like right
Yeah.
there with them. It's
That
like,
whole sequence was great.
The old lady drummer sent me. That was hilarious.
I saw her. I was like, oh, you should pick her. She's competent.
the ham boning guy, internet deep cut. For those who are unaware, there was a ancient YouTube viral video of a guy who looks exactly like that guy. May have even been the same guy. It's like an old guy who would do performances, I think in Vegas, where he would ham bone, which is like where you use yourself as percussion. They're just like, that's the guy. It's him. It's the viral video ham boning guy.
it would
Like,
not surprise me if they got the actual dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they got one of the Blue Man Group guys just to do like a brief joke, like a bunch of people. I mean, they had a blues musician just singing in the alley when David was having his dark moment in the third act.
oh my God, that moment. You brought up the one note that I felt that I needed to write on this movie, so I was sure I didn't forget it. But that one, I was like, this is such a beautiful scene. Everything, the way that the streets are shot, the lighting. It was a moment where I went, God, the old guy directors, they're really a lost treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you can't lose your old talented artists. Like, obviously, some go rancid when they become too full of their own ego. But God, that scene was so beautiful, so visually beautiful. The like yellow old lights like spilling out over the New Orleans streets. You could feel his like frustration and his anxiety boiling over. And then he just sees these musicians and has this flashback, and the smile between him and Nigel in the memory is just, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And then he overcomes his like deepest flaw of his like insatiable ego to go and do like a totally clumsy forgiveness apology thing. And you think you're kind of like, oh, you're being a little shitty. But then he's like, well, I didn't do anything. He's like, well, then I guess I forgive you for that too.
It's so good. It's so good.
I actually love that scene so much. It was like, oh my God.
It was sweet and still funny. I didn't do anything. Well, did I forgive you for that? That is funny.
I also really liked the blues scene because it felt like, especially having watched Sinners this year, that like it's got that deeper kind of like getting back to your roots of not only your friendship, but like the roots of like music and what it's for. Like that blues came from, the Black diaspora, and that evolved into rock and roll. And then, these like white guys, many, many different actual real human people in the real world, like became very successful in that. And like just feeling that it was connected back to where it came from, I felt was like, it like just kind of lent a little bit of depth to that. Otherwise, like, yeah, it's just like, yeah, get back to the roots of your friendship and be willing to set things aside or whatever. It was very wholesome and pure.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so many like little moments that are just like so funny. Like, I love the ghost tours keep coming through. Like,
And they just get so used to it that they're just like not noticing it.
specifically the fact that they're like, all right, everyone, don't disturb the ghosts. And then the
Don't
first
taunt
people
them.
you see
Don't make them mad.
There's the old guys. And it's just like, there's so many moments where it's just like, another one this ties directly to is the photographer that they get, the like famous music photographer.
Yeah.
And he's like, why are we in a cemetery? Isn't this where the dead people are supposed to be? And it's like, well, we're going to be dead soon. So like, you got to think about that kind of thing and come to peace with it.
I'm still
And
going
it's
to be
just
rocking in the urn.
There was another line going back to the ghost tours when the tour guide sees their musicians and is like trying to name all the ghosts of musicians in this house. Is like, oh, they live here, and then one of them goes, they're dead. They don't live anywhere.
And they have the like horrifying skinned alligator like just sitting on the table the whole time. It's also like the rocking in the urn thing. It has the opposite effect of the flesh tuxedo scene in the first movie. It's an inversion of that in that it's like, okay, it is their like signature dumb guy depth, but it is actually kind of fucking deep. And that's especially true when you consider the fact that with Rob Reiner passing away in such a horrible way, and yet here we are, millions of people just like us, our little podcast, we're kind of like David in the studio, just having a good old time and winning our little holdie, maybe we'll get a potty or whatever they're called.
I don't think so.
You don't think they're called potties? I think that's a great name for one.
I have to know this now. Is there a podcast award?
They can't call it a potty because that's just like, oh, wow, you got a potty. Congratulations. Was it a number 1 or a number 2?
Yeah.
Okay,
Really?
here's this. We make them. We make the potties. Maybe this year we do the potties, okay?
Is it like a microphone coming out of a toilet seat. I feel like that could be the statue. Yeah,
it's like a Razzie. Are we doing Razzies? We're just reinventing.
No, because we got to do. It has to be that you do get the best one, but it's still a number one and number two, and the number one is gold.
There's a podcast industry award called the Ambies. What does that mean? Ambies, Ambies, like ambidextrous, ambivalent. I don't know what that's for.
The Ambien, maybe because you're good to listen when you're.
Podcasts are good for sleep.
People have told me that they fall asleep to my videos.
Oh yeah, I was talking about the poignancy of that scene where it's just like, tons and tons of people are going and watching all of Rob Reiner's films and discovering new ones. Like in our case, each of us, there are films, this filmography we hadn't seen that we ended up liking. And that's going to be the case for a very long time. He really will be rocking in the urn. Like I said, the cultural penetration of Spinal Tap I is amazing. And it doesn't even matter if the cultural penetration of Spinal Tap II is not going to ever rival that. It doesn't need to. It stands as its own little wonderful thing. And those who discover it will get to enjoy it. It's just, I love that. I actually do think that that's kind of, like I said, it's an inversion of the flesh torpedo or pink torpedo in the flesh tuxedo.
I was going to make a joke about pink torpedo when you were talking about penetration, but I feel like the moment has passed. So there it is. You can...
I don't think it has. No, I think it's good. I love the weird incompetence of the people that they're engaging with, like the sound guy who
the fart.
Yeah, the fart.
That I think has to be my favorite, like funniest line reads from a random person in the whole film, where the skull turns around and it's a butt and they're playing Big Bottom and then it makes a really long fart noise and David's like, whoa, what is that? And the guy's like, oh, it's I pre-recorded it. He farted earlier, recorded it. Just the way he said that just had me fucking rolling.
And then he goes like, farts are funny. And then the guy's like, well, I can't argue with that. Like,
and then Nigel does the little, when he's talking about like the old lady on a bus fart and the fart noise that he makes with his mouth. It was just like a little, and it was so good. And like,
a little doof.
I am not above fart humor. That is probably some of the best
very good
out there. It's universal.
That whole scene is just like a torrent of good jokes, like the skull turning to reveal the ass, the fart with the smoke machine. I was floored by how good it is. I guess 2024 was kind of a year of like old guys knocking it out of the park in very different ways that were genuinely cool and awesome. We had Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese. Dude is old as hell and made a absolutely phenomenal movie that is genuinely about a really important subject matter. What a phenomenal film. We got Megalopolis, which is the strangest, the most weirdest. It is a totally different demonstration of just like an old guy going sicko mode. And sure, these are all, of course, flaws. There are flaws with all of these, but it is a movie that's like, let me put my talents to use. Let me make something weird and personal. And then Spinal Tap II. Like, just what the hell was going on? What was the moment?
So I realized that I didn't start doing the Star Trek connections at the start of this season, so I didn't do them for the first Spinal Tap. And I don't think there's actually that many in the first Spinal Tap. I think it's the same as this one. Michael McKean. He played an evil space clown in an episode of Voyager called The Thaw, which I think is an excellent and fun episode. He's kind of like Pennywise in that episode. It's great. That's the only one that I could find. However, I did notice that the costumer, her character's name was Yasmin Ferengi.
Oh my God.
Cute.
Like all the bug themed outfits. A small note. I absolutely love when we get to see these old guys in their full get-ups for the show. Oh, I love the part where it's like, this is so me. And it's like, oh, sorry, that one's for my mother. And it's just like, he's like, so, and he's not even disturbed by it. He's just like disappointed. Oh, this is so me. Like, and I love their, like, you get to see them indulge in beauty because a lot of the movie, they are kind of like schlubby, super old guys that are just kind of like groaning and falling all over the place because they're super old. But there's like this incredible spark of beauty that you just kind of like, you can't help but go like, wow, that rocks. This rocks. I love the eyeliner, dude. You rock.
The apology scene. I was like, Nigel's eyeliner is fire right now.
It's so fire. And it's just beautiful. There's so much beauty in this movie. And it is a more like sentimental movie than obviously the first one, which is kind of jaded and sarcastic. But in my opinion, it doesn't ever lean into the saccharine. It always stays very genuine. Or when it's saccharine, I guess it's for the comedic purpose. Like the saccharine stuff is sort of mocked and made fun of and toned down. Fuck Spinal Tap!
Yeah, the reason that I think Elton John worked better, going back to the earlier point, when I said I think Elton John works better than Paul McCartney, is because Elton John is just a funnier person. I've seen Elton John in, like, wasn't he in one of the Kingsman movies, just playing himself, and he was hilarious in that. I think, like, Paul McCartney is Paul McCartney. He's the fucking legend, but, like, I think Elton John just gets silly with it, and so I think that works better for this. Does. And especially, you know, having him in the show. I'm sorry, like, just seeing his piano come up out of the stage and sing, I'm like, that's just fucking cool.
Yeah, it gives you goosebumps. You got goosebumps.
I will say, like, in terms of when we're talking about, like, sentimentality, there was one thing that I think if I had seen this movie before Rob Reiner died, I might have been more annoyed at how much more he made himself a character in this one than in the first one. Because in the first one, he was, you know, you'd see him, you'd hear his voice in interviews and stuff. You'd see him occasionally on the periphery. But this one made him, he was a little bit more Michael Moore in it.
Yeah.
And had he not died, I think I would have been more annoyed. But, like, you know, he's dead. This is his last movie. And so I get to see more of him in it. And I'm going to take in as much of him as I can. So it's a very meta feeling about the movie that I wouldn't feel that way if he hadn't died.
And, you know, I think it works in the sense that a lot of this movie does deal with, you know, times are changing, and the present documentarian, the personality documentarian, the YouTube documentarian, which is a lot of what we would, you know, I mean, documentaries are not a popular genre right now, by and large, except on YouTube, where they're unbelievable. We call them video essays largely, but many of them are documentary style. You know, I think of, like, what Dan Olson does, and his presence in those, his presence as a personality is very forward. And it's not always even an ego thing so much as it is a medium thing. Like, that is what these platforms are looking for. And so to have that, it kind of feels like it's like, okay, this is a documentarian that has kept up with the times. He knows that attaching to a personality is something that modern audiences are, for better or worse. They're looking for that. They're looking for, like, oh, well, here's the guy who goes and does that thing. And you know, sometimes even the most famous documentarians do have films where they play a very central role. Like, you know, Werner Herzog is always the one I think of when I think of just the absolute legendary documentarians. And he has a few films where he plays a major role in the film. But yeah, I do think it works. And I am happy that we got to see him.
I think it makes sense within the universe because he tried to be kind of out of the way to an extent during the first movie. Like, you know, assuming we're taking it at its value of, like, this is people interacting in a real situation, that, like, he was part of their life. Like, he was a character in their life who changed the trajectory of their whole career. And so, like, his presence in the second movie, like, they directly address, were you upset with me because of how I portrayed you in the original documentary? Like, I kind of see it as a natural, like, he, more than he meant to probably in the original, like, making of the documentary, became a part of the Spinal Tap story himself. And so it does make sense to me that he would have more of an active role, or, like, he's able to reflect, like, oh, I saw these guys back in the day, so now I'm asking questions of, you know, these new characters, and I'm able to provide, like, a level of perspective, like a somewhat more not self-aware, obviously, because he's not in the band, but, like, with a greater external awareness of their personal dysfunctions. I could see why it would be annoying anyway, but, like, I just think it could make sense in a lot of ways in the universe explanation as well.
And being a mockumentary, there's that meta aspect of it, in that the sequel is being made, being fully aware that the first one was a movie that people who are in this movie saw.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Like, the way the drummer, the new drummer that they get, the way she talks about the band, you get the feeling that she got into Spinal Tap maybe because of the documentary.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. You know, another thing that I do like about his presence in the movie that carries with this theme of, like, the incompetence that we see is, like, all of the other people besides these guys who are lost in the music is like his own, like, moments of floundering where he's not getting it. First one is, like, when he's in the cheese shop. Oh, I guess it's at the end that there's the cheese shop shop scene where he can't pronounce the cheese, and the guy's just like, let's just try a different cheese. And so there's like that, and then there's the moment with the pedal board where he's doing the wah wah wah, and it's like, and he's like, you don't need to do them with your mouth, that's what the pedal's for. And it's just like, oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Just on the wah wah one, that makes me think of how many actors in Star Wars have to be told to stop making the lightsaber noises.
Yes. One of the most endearing Star Wars facts.
Yeah, I just love it. It's universal. Everyone does it. They get a lightsaber like whom whom whom. They gotta.
Mm-hmm.
You get lost in the fantasy of the lightsaber. It's so cool.
I'm going to tangent for a second because the Try Guys just did an episode on their exclusive thing. One of the Try Guys is now a trans man who's like doing boy things for the first time, and they did like a Star Wars LARP lesson, and you can buy lightsabers that make their own noises. They have like gyrometers or something in there so they can sense when you're swinging it or when they clash against something, so they make the different noises, and that's really cool.
Super cool. Yeah,
I would still make the noises with my mouth.
Of course, you can't.
It would be hard to resist. Yeah. In a similar scene, the second pedal board scene where they're on the stage and Nigel hits the like super weird high pitched screechy one, and he's like, yeah, but that's annoying, isn't it? And he's like, to you, like, it's annoying to you. Like, I think it's cool. I think it sounds cool.
He's in his own world.
and then there's like a humbling moment for the director where it's like, oh, maybe I'm imposing my own values here a little too much.
Doesn't he do something annoying in the first movie with like a violin bow on a guitar or something? And it's just so in character.
Oh, that's the bassist,
yeah, okay. But like, I know that Nigel does some obnoxious like solos and stuff in the first movie. So it's like they managed to make these characters feel so real in that continuity, you know, like we've said, like they're old guys now, so they're definitely not the same people, but there is like that thread of continuity that just, man, it's so lived in this universe.
A perfect example of what you're talking about as well is the wine glass scene, the folding wine glass, where it's like, so you're an inventor, and he's like, yeah, I invented, you know, I thought it'd be nice to have like a wine glass that you could fold up and like have for a picnic.
For your picnics.
And then he's like, did it work? And he's like, no. And it's just like, that is a scene that could not have happened with the character in the first movie. Like, he's self-aware. He's like, nah, it just didn't work. My invention sucked. Whatever. I had fun inventing it, but it sucked.
It so ties into the end of the first movie, like with the credits scene. And I think it actually ends on the scene of being like, oh yes, sir, what size hat do you wear? And Rob Reiner's like, would you be happy working that kind of job? And he's like, well, what are the hours? It's exactly the same guy.
the glue museum is another scene that is both really funny and really like beautiful. It's immediately, you assume the scene with the setup of the scene is that this is going to be purely for laughs, and there's plenty of jokes in there, but as it goes on, you see that this guy has a spiritual and genuinely personal connection to this idea of glue, a thing that, actually does have a really long history in the world, even if it's a mundane thing.
There were some of the book titles I had to write down. There was Polymers and Polyamory, Essays on Lasting Cohesion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Words with Glue
so
on God. Time to reinvent those tacky prayers. Making spouses stick together, husbands and adhesives, coping with reality, revised edition. That was the full title of that book.
Nice. I also think it's so funny that he's like, I see myself as the glue in the band, and he's the one who slept with David's wife. Like, that's crazy.
He's also the one, like, he even claims he thinks that the band fell apart because he got them all to invest in crypto that crashed.
The crypto coin commercial, just hard cut into the crypto coin commercial, was very funny, very major tonal whiplash. I absolutely love it. Again, there's so many moments of like modern contemporary humor that would not work well in so many other movies. And it's just like, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It sort of demonstrates a presentness to the film that has adapted with time.
So many of those are so good. Hell to Pay, very funny. The scene in the pub, very, very funny. Like it's so short, like these little short cutaways, and it's exactly perfect.
David being in a mariachi band and he's plays the vocalist.
Yeah, as a British man, yeah, for very funny. Adios, mi corazón.
It's so beautiful too. They're like, it's, oh my God.
The drummer, we thought she was gonna die. Well, like I was watching it with Gayfesh. We were like, when is it gonna happen? Like,
Yeah.
And it's at the they end it with like
Her
Rob
choking.
Reiner performing the Heimlich maneuver, and it's like it's kind of open ended whether she dies or not.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like we don't see her cough it up or anything.
You do see almond gunk fly out of her mouth.
Oh, is that okay? Right at the very end.
Yeah, at the very
Okay,
end.
so she narrowly escaped.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought that was very funny.
It's almost like her ambivalence towards the curse is what protects her.
Yeah.
Well, and I thought that by moving the stage, that's how she broke the curse too, because she just transferred on to 4 other musicians. They all got
That's fair
hit.
too.
The one thing I want to say, I mentioned this in a little bit in the scene where David goes for the walk and he finds the blues musicians that are just playing on the street corner in the middle of the night, just belting their hearts out. And how beautiful a scene that is, both, you know, in writing and in visuals, how visual the scene is. But that actually carries out through the whole movie. And it stands in stark contrast to the last Rob Reiner movie we watched, which was a nightmare of poorly done green screens. But this movie has just gorgeous lighting and beautiful set design and wonderful use of the camera to just create these. I think of like the first time they're in the living room of the Airbnb, or the time they go into the studio, or David's little studio. They're these like crowded, lived in, full of little details. So many scenes that are like that. I mean, even the like helicopter shot where it's over this like big lush green area that they're crossing through and they're following the car. It's a really nice looking shot, and there's so much good lighting and cinematography choices that demonstrate a mastery of the visuals, where it doesn't have to be loud and in your face. Also, it's refreshing to see a movie that does not adhere whatsoever to the contemporary standards of lighting, which, by the way, I our ass. We have a serious problem in current movies, even movies that I enjoy, where I'm not the first to point this out at all. Every movie is too goddamn dark. You can't see fucking anything. And it's partially just, I have to think that it's like a deprioritization of the skills of lighting as a result of shooting on so many like Disney Genesis Project, you know, whatever it's called, blue screen, green screen nonsense, where the lighting is just like you want it as even as possible so that you can modify it in post, and then that ends up leading towards darker scenes that are more evenly lit, where if you want to have the accurate color space, you need to darken everything. It's just a movie where that's not the case, and you see some genuine old school lighting techniques being put into place. I'm gonna guess some industry veterans on lighting. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's Rob Reiner. He's been in the industry forever, and all of his other movies have been very well lit. So like, he knows people, he knows who to work with.
He probably also has a hella collection of vintage lenses.
Maybe not him, but probably the DP he worked with.
I don't think there was any VFX work in this movie. I think it was all like everything was practical, because like what would have been even VFX? I don't know, maybe something in the concert, but
I do think some of the like in the first shot, it's like the Pork Expo ad. I do think that was probably some kind of VFX. And I imagine there's definitely some like touch-ups here and there,
like a video billboard.
Yeah, there's
like little tiny things here and there, but they're not like making fake scenes. They're, you know, they're not like
no,
like,
not at all.
And you know, they're filming in New Orleans, at least for location shoots, which is a gorgeous city, and they definitely make use of that city.
Also, the choice to shoot in New Orleans, a city that has such deep roots and has faced such devastation, and yet still there's such a glowing culture there. What an incredible decision. I love this movie. I, in fact, adore this movie. I was so surprised that that was going to be the case. There was a part of me that was worried that it was going to be hack or just, you know, over self-indulgent in ways that I found, you know, not genuine. But no, it wasn't. The weird thing is I haven't heard anything about this movie.
No.
I literally haven't heard a single review at the time of this. I ended up hearing, of course, Gayfesh's review, you know, personally, you know, right before, not a full review, but just like, oh my God, I just watched this and had a great time. But that's it. That's the first time I'd heard anything other than the existence of this movie. I purposely avoided seeing anything. And that wasn't very hard, as it turns out. But I'm happy that I did. And now, hopefully, maybe with this review, some people will go watch it.
We'll do it. We will single-handedly bring back Spinal Tap.
That would be really funny. Maybe we'll get a potty for it.
Yeah, there you go.
What a note to go out on.
Oh,
Rocket
yeah,
in the
absolutely.
urn for real.
Great bookends to his career.
Truly. I really had a good time. It was funny because one of my roommates was like, I didn't like the first one, so I'm not really going to like watch this one. And so she was kind of just going around doing her own thing. And then she ended up locked on the TV, standing, then sitting, and then watching the rest of the movie. And I'm like, yes! The hooks were in. I feel like maybe we should take 10 minutes or something and talk about just the Rob Reiner arc.
Just in terms of like our arc with his movies, or
because this is the last one we're doing. So
yeah. I've genuinely, I think this is my favorite thing that I have done with this podcast.
Yeah.
When I started this, I pitched it to us as we would just go through like different franchises and stuff. And we had up to this point, and here Rob Reiner's not a franchise. He made a wide variety of movies, and, variety is the spice of life. And I genuinely enjoyed doing that. I think I would like to just look into more directors, like, looking through ones and seeing who has a good filmography that we can pick through.
Yeah, I would like that.
That being said, we are doing more Star Trek next, but like half of that's J.J. Abrams, so we're basically doing a mini J.J. Abrams arc anyway.
Yeah, really.
Which I think is probably for the best, given, unfortunately, I have seen a lot of J.J. Abrams movies.
Me too.
There is a staticness, I'll say that much. There's a formulaity. But no, I agree. I had such an incredible time with this deep dive into a director where you start to get a feel for their style. And as an artist, there's that extra layer. I really love the Ari Aster bit that we did, even though, of course, that's a much shorter filmography. And I'm sure we'll revisit it in the future. But no, I look back on it and I'm just like, wow, there was just so much to enjoy. Even the movies that like I had a lot of critiques for, like A Few Good Men and The Bucket List, were just like so enjoyable in the broader filmography. Like, it was interesting to see what was going on, where he was at in his career, what he was thinking about and what he was trying to do and what he wanted to play with. And I don't know, I guess it's very inspiring to me personally to see like, okay, like this is an artist who is not afraid to get silly with it, like both like with what he's making, in that he makes a lot of movies with a lot of comedy in it, but like also that it's like, I feel like doing a military court drama. I'm going to do it and I'm going to put my heart into it because I'm feeling it. And that's so cool. That's such a cool way to be.
There's, I think, a lack of ego in what Rob Reiner does. And because of that, I don't think, he's not an auteur director, but I think to be an auteur, you have to have a certain level of ego that you don't let go, because you are deciding that it is your vision, it is your voice, and you have to have ego to fight for that. But like I was talking with my dad about how Rob Reiner is kind of like a class of director that we really don't have that much anymore. Somebody who was like just kind of like a working director who just happens to get like hit after hit after hit after hit. Like certainly he had an eye for scripts and he knew how to tell a story, but it wasn't like he was in this because he has like a singular Villeneuve vision,
Yeah.
And my dad asked me, who do I think would be a good like contemporary of his? Like what other director could I pick? And certainly not in terms of his career success, but I think my best pick for him as a contemporary would be Jonathan Frakes.
I could feel you about to say that.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jonathan Frakes, he's certainly, he hasn't directed as many movies. He's been primarily a TV director, and he's had a lot of opportunities to direct, Star Trek episodes here and there. But the man really understands acting, because that's where he came up from, was acting. And Rob Reiner was also an actor. And so that gives you really good actors director, and you get really good performances out of that. And Frakes doesn't come into it with ego. He does it because he's good at directing. He knows how to get things done, and he knows how to work with the performers to get the right performance from it. And while I like seeing a more singular vision of an auteur, there's something to be said for just general competence and good sense that Rob Reiner had. And it's kind of hard to find other directors who are just at that level without being up their ass about it.
It's like the movie industry has changed so much too. So like what is considered a marketable film nowadays, like I don't think you could have made a lot of these movies now.
A lot of these were the mid-budget movies that we've just seen die.
Like character focused, not a bunch of special effects, very dialogue heavy. Like and when Harry Met Sally, there was a lot of like time jumps and you kind of just had to like figure it the fuck out. And I just think that there's like a lot of hand holding nowadays with movies and TV.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's like babies. We're making this for the lowest common denominator.
Legitimately, all forms of art, like on the industry level, have a key jingling, hand holding condescension. It is a disgusting condescension. And I hate to sound like the high school English teacher that's like, if I lowered my expectations for you, I would be doing you a disservice. Now do your homework. But like legitimately, if I lowered my expectations for you, I'd be doing you a disservice. Do your goddamn homework. It's infuriating and insulting. This is a huge problem in another medium of which I care so deeply about, which is video games. And there is this just unbelievable recurring problem in big budget, what's the term that they, the blockbuster,
AAA.
The big game, the AAA is what they call it. Yeah, AAA is what they'll use in the industry. But, the equivalent in film is, the sort of blockbuster films, these big tent poles. And in these games, there's a character or characters yapping at you constantly, telling you everything that you're already seeing with your own eyes and how to interpret it and what to think about it. There is an endless tutorialization that never ends, that's just assuming you can never retain any information. There's never a moment of silence or room to breathe. And it is just so disappointing. It's such a sickening development for art. And of course, we see this metastasize into the absolute cancerous addiction that is like short form content on the internet. This is not to say that there's no artistry whatsoever in short form, by the way. I would disagree with that concept, the idea that there's no artistry in there. Obviously, there are some legendary short bits that deserve all the attention in the world and have a lot of artistry in them. It's just that there is this ease of presentation, advertiser friendliness, platform, quote unquote, friendliness, corporation friendliness that inundates the mentality of, yes, produce us a content. We need an endless stream of content. Never allow the attention to, quote unquote, wander for a moment. Yeah. It permeates everything, and it's so toxic to art. It is so toxic to frankly, to the human spirit. And it makes me so sad.
It feels like every scene has to be written with something that could be put on your shorts feed and serve as a trailer for this. Which like sometimes that's good. I was interested in watching Starfleet Academy because of a couple of those clips that I saw of the first episode. And I was like, damn, that seems like a funny show that I want to watch. And then it was a really good show. And I'm really bummed out that it got canceled. I'm glad that we get season 2 at least. But I do think that like explain the plot over and over again, never let their attention waver. It's just, it's kind of depressing.
Leave everything completely unambiguous, at least from the perspective of those who are making the movie. We're telling you what you should think about this movie before the movie's over, so that, we want to make sure that you give us an updoot or a popcorn or a fucking red tomato instead of a green tomato or whatever. It is saddening. And I think that's also like part of why what I said earlier about the geezer directors just having a great year in 2024 feels really good.
This one was 2025, but it's still
technically area. 2025. You're right. Yeah. Whatever.
I feel like the writing and filming of it could be, you could say 2024.
Yeah. And also, I mentioned Megalopolis, a movie that is very controversial, but I loved that movie because of the reasons that it pissed people off. It is a weird movie. It is a movie that you could argue has no business being in every theater in America across the country, and yet it was. And I love that. I want to see more of that. I want to see people getting weird with it. I want to see people getting artistic with it.
I want weird art.
I want weird art. I want the art that somebody believes in, even if it's freaking like, what the fuck? Or you're like, well, I don't know about this, man. But then you're like, but you put your heart into it. Let me see that. I don't think I'm alone either. No. I think a lot of you will resonate with this.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably a good place to leave it. Genuinely, I have had so much enjoyment with Rob Reiner's filmography. I'm probably going to watch some more of his stuff just off the podcast. But next, we have done the TOS era. We have done the TNG era. We are now going to be doing the Kurtzman era of Star Trek movies. So look forward to that.
Star Trek.
Until then, I've been Gayfish.
I am also Moss.
I am also Gayfish and Moss? Question mark? No, I'm DemonMama, of course, right?
Yeah.
I am? Am I? Where am I?
I don't know, but we'll find out next time. Catch you later. Bye.
Bye.